All right, it's early May right now. I'm at my friend's Greg's house, and we're gonna take a look at his mango tree right now. This is actually a Florida turpentine mango tree, but it's looking really good. It has a bunch of kind of grafts going on. So, kind of, Greg, give us kind of a little bit of background on the tree.
Yeah, so like you said, it's on turpentine. When I bought this tree, it was maybe one of the first three trees I bought before doing my whole yard, getting into the whole fruit thing. Had no education. I did very little research. I just heard hype about certain varieties and I had to have it. Specifically, the one that got me going was coconut cream. So, I bought like maybe 4 or 5 different varieties, not knowing about Florida turpentine rootstock here having some issues in Southern California. And needless to say, all my turpentines died except for this one. So, and this one, I had to baby it. It had really droopy branches early on. Did not seem happy at all, but somehow it made it through, and with a lot of training the branches up and a lot of pruning, and I guess with age and time, it started like finding its feet. And I think it'll be okay. Now, I don't know if it affects like fruit quality or production, the turpentine here, but I'm not going to dig out a 10-year-old tree at this point, so I multi-grafted it with all kinds of varieties, trying to emphasize more late season. It's not all late season varieties here, but what I've heard and what people have said, late season might be the way to go here in Southern California. So a lot of these are later season varieties, but I've been given other varieties that I put on and just some experimental varieties too, like I guess a fruit punch is I guess considered early mid.
Oh, okay.
But it's on there as well, just because the guy said I should try it, so I tried it. And this is where we're at. Last year I totally top worked it. Put all varieties. The original grafted variety was Glen, which just gets decimated with powdery mildew. And so I decided to totally top work and go with something that may be a more later season and potentially have some resistance to powdery mildew. We'll see what happens.
I didn't know you had this for. I didn't know you had like 5 other mangoes.
Oh yeah, I did the whole. I did Valencia Pride on turpentine, coconut cream on turpentine, sugarloaf, orange sherbet. And I know I'm missing a few here and there.
And you're the third person I know that has a Glen on like a turpentine rootstock that's actually doing well at this point. The other person is Sam, Sam, and then my friend Brian.
Yeah.
He had an original Glen too, but he topped worked it. He didn't like the fruit.
Interesting.
He thought it was just.
Yeah, that Mummin's Garden is the guy with the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam has.
That's Sam. Okay.
His Glen on turpentine is really nice too, and my friend Brian had it too, and you guys all bought the tree around the same time.
Right.
So I'm not sure what it is with the Glen, but I did notice that some of the, what I think is like the Pine Island rootstock.
Gotcha.
And they produce a lot of like the old classic ones on it.
Gotcha.
They seem to survive and have done better than some of the Zill rootstock. I'm not sure if that's a thing. That's just kind of my guess.
I don't remember where I got this. It was either from Mimosa in LA or Champa. And I knew I bought several varieties, so I wish I could remember which source it was. But I think back then Champa was getting from Pine Island. I think that I could be wrong about all these things.
Yeah, same thing with me. I could be wrong. But it's a pretty interesting that you guys all have like 3 really surviving Glens. That's like at this point that's doing really well.
Of all the varieties, which is odd. So maybe it is a different source for the rootstock.
And in terms of I think you've been focusing on a lot of the late season, but we're talking about like just breaking off the blooms, and sometimes that could be an early season, just break off the blooms.
Right.
And
trying to get a second.
Yeah, get a second bloom. And it's been pretty interesting, at least for yours. Like you don't spray or anything, so none of these have been sprayed.
Zero
right?
spray. I'm pretty stubborn about that. No, I've watched your videos with Brian, and apparently it's baking soda and water he's doing.
Baking soda and like dish soap.
And dish soap.
Yeah.
So I'm not opposed to that idea. That seems like, fairly natural and not, whatever.
And it took me a while to convince him to just use a little bit of that.
Yeah. There's something about it's interesting. Like I have an idea where I've never used any fertilizers or pesticides or any kind of outside management of things. I kind of want to see how a system can develop here in Orange County, California, without any like external inputs or excessive management, just to see what can survive on its own. And so far, everything does pretty well, but the mangoes and the powdery mildew is an issue for production.
Yeah.
So,
but you know, at least yours, I think, is wide open. Like you have sunlight coming from all sides. There's no other big trees covering it. You know, there's like a wind circulation, so you could definitely do a much better job controlling it naturally than like in my place where it's
Right.
like big trees and stuff. It's
yeah,
like
that's tough
PM,
for you. with those
PM
big-
magnet.
Yeah, exactly. And you have one of your areas is really prone to PM for some reason.
Yeah, it's too many big trees. Like those to me, I think like a lot of those cypress tree or
Oh,
like
yeah.
some of the ivy. All
Oh,
they
yeah.
do is kind of like hold on to like spores or like other stuff.
Inside, they're just
Yeah.
white and dusty and
Yes.
dirty. Yeah, that's probably the source. So so this year, I'm considering, snapping early blooms off, just maybe get a second bloom to see if I get better production. But since I just totally top worked this last year, and these are all new varieties for me, I didn't do that this year because I want to see, what's possible without that kind of management, and to kind of give me an idea what to potentially select going forward. So I'm not letting any fruit stay on this year, but I want to see what is willing to hold some fruit, or at least give me some fruitlets to give me some, some data to work with.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where we're at right now. Nothing's been broken off. We're just there's been no sprays, and we want to see what will stay on this tree with zero management.
Yeah, and I done the same thing with mine too. I was trying to see like what sets kind of just like, even if they set like kind of these like nubbins,
Yeah,
like I would think those would, at least for me, like spraying would kind of help it.
exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, yours looks great, and this is all like 1 year growth, right? So
Right.
it's like
And-
amazing. That's a lot of growth.
There's 4 stages of grafting here. The bulk of it was done early on. Then there was a second stage where I had some failures. That wasn't the best budwood. And then there was like a third and fourth stage where I had a single piece of budwood you gave me late in the year that I put on, which is this Golden Queen right here. You'll see it has the least amount of growth.
Yeah.
And then I had a cack branch that was basically growing straight down pretty much, and one available branch left over here. So then I did the latest graft, is this cack right here.
yeah.
And it's totally mismatched. Like the material did not match at all. So I just,
Yeah.
and it was late in the day, so I just cut it and just jammed it in there, and it took. So
And I tell people it's not that tough as long as you have good scions. And
Right.
it's tougher when you get like scions from Florida that ship, and especially if they don't do a good job prepping it.
Exactly.
Because I've done the same thing you did, where it's like I just matched one side.
yeah,
And it still took, and it was like I was very surprised about it because how difficult it is when you get these shipped scions. They just don't want to take sometimes.
Exactly.
But with your own scions, they take easily.
that cack budwood, it was swelling and pushing, and so I immediately just took it from this branch, put it on that branch, and no problem. So yeah, get
So
good
you got
budwood.
two grafts, yeah. Let's go through like the different varieties you got on.
Yeah, so maybe I'll start with what had the worst powdery mildew.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, it's the fruit punch was the first one to show it, and it had the worst early on. And of all my varieties, the second worst is probably ST Maui, and it may have beat it towards the end, but it has the most fruitlets, and it had the worst PM, and it was the earliest to get the PM, and it has the most like encouraging fruitlets. I'll show you this one over here too. See, this is probably the best
Oh,
candidate.
is that a fruit punch too?
That's fruit punch. See,
Wow.
there's more there.
Wow, that's
And
a good size.
these were decimated with powdery mildew. Decimated, and they were the first ones to get it. And the other varieties were super clean, like crazy clean. The ST Maui, who looked immaculate for the longest time. So that's the fruit punch. It has the most fruitlets and had the worst PM potentially. All this section up here pretty much is sweet tart.
Oh, wow, that's a nice branching on sweet tart.
Yeah, sweet tart did really well, and it has a lot of fruitlets. I mean, I hate it when they're yellow like that. I don't have a ton of experience with mangoes, but if they start off yellow, they're probably not going to hold, in my opinion. Maybe you have a different experience.
Yeah, I never really tracked that, but when you mentioned it, I was like, oh yeah, you have a good point on that. Lots of times, like those yellow ones, even though they develop, they kind of end up being like nubbins, or they like develop to a certain size and they just drop off.
Right. The big one, that big fruit punch on the side, it was never yellow. It was a nice, vibrant green for that's as it was developing, and it looks the best. All these others kind of like started yellow, and to me they don't look very encouraging. But we'll see what happens. And this is cack right here. Cack had like, I'd say medium powdery mildew issue, and we have some fruit set here.
Oh yeah, I see it.
And you see these are yellow. These are
Yeah.
gonna fall right off. Not a ton. There's some right there too. This is cack, and then there's another cack over here that I grafted later. And up in this section right here, we have M4 up there.
Oh, which one is it?
I'll get up here and point that to you. So
Is
this
that-
is all M4 up here. And you can see I have some fruitlets right there.
Oh, nice. So you grafted several branches of M4.
Several branches of M4, maybe 4 or 5. This is M42. You know, the smaller, weaker branches gave me very little growth. So I didn't expect much fruit on those either.
You know, I like the flowers on the M4 from the ones I had that flowered. The flowers was like how would I say? It's not like condensed, like they're just spread out.
Yeah, they're very spread. They seem pretty delicate and thin compared to the rest.
Yeah. So I think like those spread out ones, they probably have a better chance of not catching like powdered mildew and stuff, just because a bit
That
more
would make-
air circulation.
That would make sense to me. And I talked to you about this before. The cack has an interesting flower. Of all my varieties, it has a very dense flower.
Yeah, I think you caught it like those type of cauliflower.
Yeah, the
where it's
type of
those like
the
a
broccoli
pointy,
that look. I forget the name
yeah,
of
I
the
forget
broccoli.
it too.
It has the Fibonacci sequence or whatever
Yeah.
it is. So yeah, it's very dense, and you would assume that would hold more fungal spores and things like that. So yeah, that's the cack. Surprisingly, this was done super late, and it didn't flower, and the other cack
Oh,
did. So
nice.
that's kind of an interesting
That is
observation.
interesting.
That was done so late, maybe October. you
Yeah.
know. And the cack that was done early last year had fruit, had flowers.
Yeah,
and
that's
fruit,
pretty interesting, because sometimes mine, when I graft it, well, not sometimes, lots of times, it would just still flower.
That's what I
it was
totally
just still
expected.
flower,
I
no
totally
matter what.
expected that. So this is the one maybe I'm the most encouraged about, is cotton candy. You'll see it's pretty loaded with fruitlets,
Oh,
and it stayed pretty clean. Like you didn't even see much powdery mildew now either. It did rain, so some of it washed off.
Yeah, your
But-
cotton candy looks great. Like mine's hasn't grown well, which kind of makes me question if I even have a cotton candy.
Well, maybe I should question whether this is cotton candy too. So who knows, really? But yeah, I'm the most encouraged about cotton candy because it really didn't show much powdery mildew, and it has tons of fruitlets.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
can
you see them up
I
in
can see
here,
all
too.
these green fruitlets too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there. So I'm super encouraged, especially if maybe I do spray some baking soda and soap next year. Here's the ST Maui. I had to prop it up because it had such big panicles. It was weighing this branch completely down.
yeah,
So,
look at this.
yeah, and it looked gorgeous, man. And it didn't show any powdery mildew for the longest time. And then within about a 4 or 5 day period, it got it, and it got demolished by it. So I was like, oh wow, this is the cleanest of the bunch. In less than a week, it was just
Yeah,
decimated.
all it takes is like just a week of like when the weather turns, and then
Yeah.
it's just. But Estimao is such a good fruit. I hope you kind of do spray some baking soda on it when you decide to hold fruit, because out of my yard, I thought it was the best tasting fruit
Great.
that came out of my yard.
Well, I'm definitely keeping the variety on
It's
here.
vigorous growing. It's just that
Very
the
vigorous.
blooms are just PM prone.
And I'm going to take this stuff off here and just leave this more upward growing one. Because I'm near a sidewalk, I can't have real droopy branches over here, so I'm encouraging straight up growth for a while to get it away from the sidewalk. So yeah, you can see this is pretty white, pretty loaded, and I don't see any fruitlets on it, which is interesting. I think that's the only variety. Those are all. I think that's the only variety that doesn't have a fruitlet. Up here's the M4 again.
Sorry.
Back there's the sweet tart, and this is another angle of the fruit punch right there.
Is this one a sweet tart too? This one right here?
That's M4.
Oh, that's an M.
Yeah, the one back there. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
sweet tart.
Oh yeah,
The
you
one-
got 2 huge grafts of sweet tart.
Yeah. Yeah, that went off. It grew well. Sweet tart seems to be a great grower here. And there is fruit set. You can see it up there and over there. It dropped a lot of the fruitlets, so there is still fruit set. This is more M4. This kind of section's M4. That's actually, I lost a graft, and that's Glen right there.
Oh.
So super late Glen bloom. I thought Glen was completely gone, but it's not. And that's more M4. So yeah, I think from what I'm seeing of the later varieties, M4 and Cotton Candy has great potential.
Mm.
And then the early mid, even though it got a ton of powdery mildew, the fruit punch might have some really good potential too. And of course, I mean, the sweet tart's pretty good too. So I don't know if you've had mature full-size sweet tart fruit here.
I've had, all my trees have just produced nubbins. There's just been a bunch of nubbins on my fruit tart, so I might have to do a bit more spraying. I haven't, just because I wanted to see what the sweet tart does, because lots of people have said it just produces without any spraying, but at least my area, I think I'm gonna have to spray.
So as far as the growth rate, the vegetative growth, sweet tart great, cotton candy great, cat great, ST Maui great. M4 is moderate so far, I think. So far, anyway.
Yeah, M4 is probably moderate from what I've seen, but it seems to be the best out of the coconut flavored ones. So
that's why I kind of
there's the sugar loaf, the coconut cream, but the M4 still seems better than them.
Yeah. So that's where we're at. The nighttime temps are starting to hit 60 now.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to catch you before you start pruning this, because I'm just looking at my area, and I'm going to hit 60, and looks like if the forecast is right, it might hit 60 and stay there for at least a week before any changes. So
exactly.
I think it might be time for my area to at least kind of start removing the blooms too. So I wanted to catch you before you kind of take everything off.
I'm chomping at the bit because I'm trying to get this tree as big as possible. I'm not trying to keep a small tree here. I figure the bigger the tree, the more fruit failure, but that's the more fruit success too. And that's how I'm going to view it. And with hopefully less maintenance, just keeping it thinned out a little bit here and there, and taking down the top every once in a while. But yeah, I'm going for a massive amount of fruit, so I'm gonna let this thing get as big as it wants to be.
Nice.
Yeah,
I mean, this has great structure for like the multigrass, and it's done well. And I can't believe some of this. This is just last year, right?
Yeah, last year.
Yeah, look at this. This is incredible growth for just last year. Looks like
that's over 2 feet, almost 3 feet. That's like 3
and then
foot.
like the grafting union, it's healed. It's already like, brown. Looks like really aged already.
Yeah, they did great. My early grafts did wonderful. Can't complain. Have good success with grafting almost anything. But mango seems pretty easy, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't really dwell on it too much. I try to match it up reasonably and cinch it tight and let it do what it wants to do.
So yeah, Greg, this looks awesome. Can't wait to see how this tree looks like in the future. I think it's gonna be I think it's gonna be a great looking multi-grafted tree.
I think so too. I'm not too worried about keeping it in balance. I'm a former bonsai guy. I love to prune. Pruning isn't a chore for me. It's actually quite enjoyable, and that just means more budwood for maybe my friends or some other people.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks, Greg. Thanks for the update on the tree. I always wanted to film it. It's got
I appreciate
a chance to do.
I appreciate your help and knowledge. You've helped me, kind of like select certain things, and you've beat the stubborn out of me a little bit, maybe about spraying some baking soda. I'm a pretty stubborn guy. I'm also pretty patient, but I can't see spraying was it baking powder or baking soda?
Baking soda.
Baking soda. I mean, I'm trying to imagine any negative effect from spraying baking soda. I can't even imagine that. So we'll probably give that a shot sometime in the future.
Definitely. All right, Greg. Thanks for chatting.
Yeah, no worries. My pleasure.